Do you have to be a Sigma to be high value? Who are the shapeshifters who change colors like chameleons, wise like owls, and leap between roles like flames dancing over coals? High value isn't stamped on one label. It's the skill to morph. Stoic when storms rage, cunning when traps snap, relentless when mountains must move. We will show you 10 traits of the weakest shadow of the Sigma. They are Sigma's closest allies and the building blocks of societies. We will show you with the light of stoicism and practical psychology to understand. So let's start the video. Trait number 1. The Guardian's Shadow. You ever wonder why some people seem to carry the weight of the world's expectations, while others drift quietly through life's currents, observing but rarely disturbing the waters? Delta walks among us like shadows cast by ancient trees, present but unassuming, essential yet overlooked. You understand this archetype because you've watched them, perhaps envied their ability to find peace in the background while you navigate. The Delta personality moves through life with deliberate caution. They are the reserved sentinels of human interaction, those who choose listening over speaking, observing over acting. But don't mistake their quietness for weakness, where most people stumble in their judgment. Their greatest fear lies in change itself. While Sigmas or Zetas thrive on transformation and challenge, they find security in predictable patterns. It's like comparing a river that carves new channels through rock with a deep lake that reflects the sky unchanged for centuries. Both serve their purpose, both hold their own power. Psychologists once studied groups tasked with solving complex problems. The loudest voices dominated, but the solutions, fragile, impulsive. The quiet contributors like Deltas observed patterns, gaps, risks. Their ideas, when finally shared, were often the keystones of success, yet they rarely took credit. Marcus Aurelius wrote of accepting what we cannot control. But the Delta takes this further. They avoid situations where control becomes necessary. Their loyalty runs deeper than most relationships you'll encounter. When they commit, it's not with the calculated strategy you might employ, but with the steady devotion of someone who has weighed every risk and chosen to stay. Yet here lies their hidden strength. In moments of true crisis, they can transform into any personality the situation demands. The Delta's strength is their ability to become the river, shifting shape. Sigma's adaptability, Omega's resilience, Zeta's innovation, when the terrain demands it. Yet transformation requires swallowing the terror of erosion. This adaptability, born from their cautious observation, makes them formidable allies when the stakes are highest. Trait number 2. Loyalty Paradox. Have you ever carried a vow so heavy it reshaped your bones? The Delta's loyalty is not a choice, it's a reflex, a gravitational pull toward those they deem theirs. Like ancient oaks wrapping roots around stones, they fuse themselves to people, systems, ideals. This devotion is their superpower. It builds families, sustains kingdoms, turns strangers into kin. Sigmas understand strategy and calculated moves, but the Delta operates on emotional mathematics. In 1973, psychologists observed a phenomenon called the sunk cost fallacy. We cling to failing relationships or broken systems simply because they've already invested time, pain, love. The Delta knows this intimately. Their loyalty often conflates commitment with identity. To detach feels like self-erasure. Stoics whisper a counter-argument. What is not yours cannot be taken. It was never yours to lose. Marcus Aurelius wrote of loving others as if they might vanish tomorrow, a loyalty that breathes, unshackled by possession. Here lies the Delta's paradox. Their greatest strength demands their greatest risk. To love deeply without needing to control is to stand in a storm with open hands. Think of them as blacksmiths who forge chains and keys in the same fire. When their loyalty shifts from I must stay to I choose to stay, they reclaim agency. Suddenly, the cage becomes a compass. Sigmas understand this tension. You've watched Deltas suffocate in stagnant jobs, toxic bonds, outdated selves, all in the name of duty. Yet when they finally pivot to Sigma's independence, Omega's reinvention, Zeta's defiance, it's not betrayal, it's evolution. A river changing course isn't disloyal to its bed, it's faithful to its nature. So here's the truth they often miss. Loyalty to others means nothing without loyalty to oneself. A tree that never sheds dead branches collapses under their weight. The Delta's challenge, to love like the tide, devoted, yet unafraid to recede, to hold others lightly, so both may grow. Ask yourself, what chains have you mistaken for crowns? Sometimes, the bravest act of loyalty is letting go. Trait number 3, counting the steps. Have you ever traced the path of a moth circling a flame? Close enough to feel heat, never close enough to burn. The Delta's caution is not hesitation, it is calculation. They map risks like cartographers drafting borders, measuring every cliff in quicksand. To outsiders, it looks like fear. To you, it's familiar, the art of war fought in silence. But what happens when the map becomes the territory? When caution stops protecting and starts paralyzing? A 2001 study on decision-making named Frozen Choice revealed a paradox. Those who overanalyze risks often end up creating the disasters they fear. By fixating on stability, Deltas can fossilize their own potential. Think of them as architects who design fortresses so impenetrable, they forget to leave a door. Safety becomes a life sentence. Stoics nod grimly. Seneca warned, limits create the limitless. Without edges, even oceans lose meaning. Caution, then, must have an edge. A line where planning ends and living begins. Here's the Delta's tightrope. Their genius for foresight can blind them to the present. Like a gardener so focused on pruning rot, they miss the first bloom of spring. You've seen this, the coworker who spots every flaw in a proposal but never shares their own idea. The friend who stays in a crumbling relationship because it could be worse. Their caution, once a shield, morphs into a coffin, yet within this lies a secret. The Delta's restraint is the same force that lets them pivot to Sigma's boldness or Omega's reinvention. It's the pause before the arrow flies, the moment direction is chosen. Stoicism teaches that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else matters more. For the Delta, that something is often the people they protect. Ask yourself, when does a fortress become a prison? The Delta's challenge is to wield caution like a sculptor's chisel, not to avoid the block, but to carve it, to trust that even if the flame burns, it might also illuminate. Trait number 4, the Peacemaker. Deltas carry within the art of gentle shielding, stepping back when conflict brews, preserving the bonds that matter most. Their avoidance of discord is a guardrail, holding them safe from storms, yet it can leave issues to fester, like weeds beneath the surface waiting to choke the roots. Mary P. Gavilan's 2015 study on conflict avoidance showed that while stepping aside may keep peace, it can also let small tensions grow into larger rifts, undermining trust. Have you ever swallowed a scream and felt it turn into a stone? Delta avoids conflict like a diver avoids jagged rocks, not out of cowardice, but to preserve the fragile ecosystem of their relationships. Their silence in the face of friction isn't surrender, it's a ceasefire negotiated in the name of stability. But a Sigma understands the cost, don't you? Unspoken words pile up like unburied corpses, poisoning the soil they tried so hard to protect. Psychologists call this the harmony paradox, published in 2017 in the Journal of Social Dynamics. Teams that avoid conflict achieve short-term peace but crumble under long-term rot. Deltas, often the glue holding groups together, absorb disputes to keep the surface calm, yet beneath, resentment brews. Stoics grimace. Peace, bought with silence, is tyranny, not tranquility. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Suppress too much, and the soul turns to ash." Their avoidance is a dam holding back a river. It works, until the pressure cracks the foundation. You've seen it. Marriages dissolving in quiet bitterness. Projects failing because no one voiced the flaw. The Delta's fear isn't conflict itself. It's the loss of control. What if the storm they avoid is the very thing that clears the air? Yet here's the twist. Their skill in sidestepping chaos is what lets them morph into Sigma's strategic calm, or Zeta's disruptive honesty. A Delta who learns to wield conflict becomes a surgeon, cutting cleanly to heal. Stoicism teaches that obstacles are fuel, fire that forges instead of consumes. The Delta's challenge is to stop seeing conflict as a grenade and start seeing it as a tool. Ask yourself, what bridges have collapsed under the weight of unspoken truths? The Delta's gift is diplomacy, but even diplomats must sometimes declare war. To build lasting peace, one must first dig up the landmines. Remember, a forest that never burns becomes a tinderbox. Let the fire rage, controlled, purposeful, and watch new growth rise from the ash. Number 5. The Phoenix. It is easier for Deltas to change or upgrade to Sigmas or Zetas than other introverted lower arches like Omegas or Gammas. Power of Omegas and Gammas are ability to hold and stay rigor. We will talk about that in another video, so subscribe. We want to reach 50,000 subs by the end of this year. Have you ever watched a star collapse into a black hole, only to birth a galaxy? The Delta's fear of change is not weakness. It's the tremble of a universe rearranging itself. They cling to stability like a climber grips a cliff, unaware that the fall might teach them to fly. But you've witnessed their secret, haven't you? When cornered, they don't break, they transform. Sigma's cunning, Omega's resilience, Zeta's audacity, all live dormant in their bones, waiting for the catalyst of necessity. A 2008 study on adaptability from the chameleon paradox found that those who resist change often possess the greatest capacity for reinvention. It's not skill they lack, it's permission. Deltas, like coiled springs, store energy in their stillness. Stagnation is a slow poison. Stoics argued that to fear change is to fear your own breath. Life is motion. Heraclitus, ancient truth still scorches. No man steps in the same river twice. Yet the Delta's gift is becoming the river itself, reshaping its course when mountains block its path. Their metamorphosis is not betrayal, it's alchemy. Think of them as phoenixes, who mistake their ashes for failure, not fuel. When a Delta shifts to Sigma's strategic detachment, or Omega's unyielding grit, they're not abandoning loyalty, they're expanding it. A tree that refuses to bend loses branches. A Delta that bends gains tools. But here's the trap. Too much adaptation erases the self. Like a chameleon stuck in endless color shifts, they risk forgetting their original. Stoicism warns, know what is yours to change, and what is yours to protect. The Delta must discern when to wear masks and when to shatter them. You've seen this duality. The quiet colleague who becomes a lion in crisis, the reserved friend who morphs into a warrior when loved ones are threatened. Their power lies in the tension between who they are and who they might become. Ask yourself, what parts of you have you buried to fit into borrowed skins? The Delta's lesson is this. Metamorphosis is not loss, it's reclamation. A star dies to become light, so too can the Delta. Remember, even black holes eventually exhale. What they destroy, they also rebirth. Hope you're liking this video. We really appreciate what you guys do for this channel. Thanks. Trait number 7. The fearer of unknown. Have you ever built a fortress so well, you forgot how to open the gate? The Delta's pursuit of emotional security is not weakness, it's architecture. They construct relationships like stonemasons, each bond a brick mortared with loyalty, each boundary a rampart against chaos. But you've seen it, how their walls, meant to keep danger out, end up trapping them inside. Psychologists call this the security paradox, published in 2019 from Journal of Relational Dynamics. The safer we feel, the less we risk. And risk is the oxygen of growth. Deltas hoard stability like treasure, fearing that one misstep could collapse their carefully curated world. Yet Stoics warn, security rooted in externals is a shackle disguised as sanctuary. Epictetus scoffed, "Fortify yourself in philosophy, not walls. What you fear exists only in your mind." The Deltas' challenge is twofold. Their loyalty to others often overshadows loyalty to self, like a gardener who tends every plant but forgets to water their own roots. They pour energy into maintaining connections while their inner world withers. You've watched them stay in hollow friendships, lifeless routines, because the unknown beyond the walls feels like freefall. But here's the truth they bury. Vulnerability is the lockpick. When a Delta dares to lower the drawbridge, to confess a need, to voice dissent, to embrace Sigma's unflinching honesty, they discover that true security isn't in avoiding storms, but in learning to dance in the rain. A 2016 study on resilience found that individuals who leaned into discomfort rebuilt faster after loss. The Delta's caution, then, is not wrong, it's incomplete. Stoicism whispers a remedy: build your citadel within, when emotional security becomes an inner compass, not an external cage. The Delta stops fearing collapse. They realize walls can have doors. That trust is not naivety, it's strategy. Ask yourself, what bridges have you burned to protect a fortress that no longer serves you? The Delta's genius is in their depth of care, but care must flow both ways. A moat that never drains becomes a swamp. Remember, the strongest castles have courtyards, spaces where light enters, where strangers become allies, where the self remembers how to breathe. Let the walls stand, but let them frame life, not forbid it. Trait number 8. Thinkers who forget to move. Have you ever watched a blacksmith stare at molten iron, calculating each strike until the metal cools to stone? The Delta's mind is a furnace of plans, contingencies, what-ifs. Their introspection, a double-edged sword. They map every step but forget to walk. You've seen this paralysis by analysis, where loyalty to caution betrays their potential. Sigmas, though equally strategic, strike when the iron glows hottest. Their genius is not in thinking more, but in thinking enough. Omega, as we've said, knows when to act. We'll link that video somewhere. They sense the critical moment like a storm feels charged air, yet they also freeze, overthinking shadows, mistaking risk for recklessness. Delta, they overthink the path itself, counting pebbles on a road they never take. Both drown in different depths of the same river. Here's the cruelty. A Delta who believes they've become Sigma is a sailor who confuses a map for the sea. They adopt Sigma's silence, but not their audacity, mistaking withdrawal for wisdom. Stoics hiss, to know and not act is to not know. Epictetus wrote of the charioteer, who studies the reins but never races, a scholar of movement, allergic to motion. Sigma's edge is balance. They let intuition and logic duel, then bet on the winner. Delta's thoughts spiral, Omega's thoughts corrode. A 2017 study on decision-making, named the paralysis spectrum, found that overthinkers waste 73% of opportunities rehearsing steps they'll never take. Delta's curse is believing preparation erases risk, when truthfully, risk is the tax on growth. Ask yourself, how many victories have you buried under weight? The Delta's path to Sigma isn't mimicry, it's metamorphosis. Not just thinking like a wolf, but hunting like one. To mistake stillness for strategy is to starve at a banquet. Remember, fire dies if you never feed it. Delta's mind is the spark, Sigma's action is the air, Omega's timing is the fuel, but only those who dare to burn eat the feast. Stoicism's verdict: you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. The Delta's upgrade begins when they stop polishing the blade and finally cut. Trait number 9, the lover boy. You are romantic at your core, yet your low self-confidence whispers, that you don't deserve the warmth you crave, leaving you standing in the shadows while others claim the light. Research by Murray and Holmes in 2009 on relationship dynamics shows that those who doubt their worth often miss chances for intimacy, even when their feelings run deep. They see themselves as average, their looks, their charm, their voice, all unremarkable. Most of the time, they don't even try to improve. Your loyalty weaving the foundation beneath families and communities, in the way a mason loves the stone, quietly, through calloused hands and unspoken vows. Their love is not grand gestures or sharp charisma, it is the steady pulse of showing up. But you've seen their tragedy, how their humility curdles into self-doubt, how they build empires for others, but sleep in the scaffolding. Deltas are the spine of societies. They fix the pipes, raise the children, clock into jobs that demand everything, and praise little. Their faces blur in crowds, their names fade from plaques. Yet without them, the machine grinds to rust. A 2021 study on invisible labor found that communities with high Delta-like contributors thrive longer during crises. Their power isn't in brilliance, but in dependability. But here's the wound. They mistake invisibility for unworthiness. They adore deeply, but fear their love is a burden. Who'd want this? They whisper. Sigma, meanwhile, needs no validation. They are validation. Delta, they love like a draft horse plows. Head down, heart hidden. The irony is lethal. Deltas possess the raw material of Sigma's work ethic, loyalty, depth, but polish it into service, not sovereignty. Stoics would argue their flaw isn't lack of skill, but lack of permission. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Delta's confidence isn't low, it's misplaced. They are the average Joes. They pour it into roles, not selves. Yet here's the alchemy. A slight shift in focus transforms them. When a Delta stops asking, "Am I enough?" and starts declaring, "I am here," they don't just become Sigma, they surpass it. Sigma's strength is independence. Delta turns Sigma wields independence and empathy. They become the wolf, remembers being the shepherd. Ask yourself, how many masterpieces have you ghostwritten for others? The Delta's curse is their gift. To build cathedrals, they never step inside. But what if they claimed a pew, breathed the incense, let their own name echo in the vaults? Stoicism's verdict: what's praised is not the work, but the worker. The Delta need not become Sigma. They must become Delta unleashed, the quiet force who knows their worth, not as a pillar, but as the entire damn temple. Remember, even the weakest stone can become a cornerstone. But first, it must believe it belongs to the sky. Trait number 10, the Gravity Man. Have you ever thanked gravity? It does not demand praise. It simply is. The silent force that roots flights to Earth, that lets oceans cling to planets. The Delta is gravity incarnate, unnoticed, uncelebrated, yet the reason anything holds. But here's the tragedy. They mistake their necessity for insignificance. They build families, societies, futures, then apologize for taking up space. A 2022 study on the invisible workforce tracked 5,000 individuals in essential roles: nurses, teachers, laborers. It found that those who saw their work as foundational, not flashy, reported deeper fulfillment, yet battled invisibility's curse. Does it matter if I vanish? Stoics rage at this blindness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." The Delta's life is not small, their thoughts are. Sigma thrives in the spotlight of self-sufficiency. Omega waits to pounce, Zeta's breaks rules. But Delta, they are the soil. Romance isn't failed by their face, but by their fear of being seen. They love like gravity loves, eternally present, rarely acknowledged. Yet here's the pivot. Delta's path to power isn't in becoming Sigma, but in recognizing they've been Sigma all along. When a Delta stops conflating visibility with value, they unlock a brutal truth. Backbones don't beg for applause. They stand. and the world leans on them. Ask yourself, who decided quiet was weak? The Delta's humility is not a cage, it's a weapon. A 2018 study, named The Myth of Charisma, proved that trust is earned not by charm, but by consistency. Delta's native tongue. But beware, a Delta who mimics Sigma's swagger betrays their superpower. Like a mountain pretending to be a comet, they lose what makes them eternal. Stoicism's crown is self-knowledge. No soul is free who is not master of itself. The Delta's mastery lies in their ability to endure, not escape. You've seen this. How Deltas outlast storms that shatter others. How their loyalty becomes legacy. Their upgrade isn't a costume change. It's a revelation. Remember, pyramids don't worship their peaks. They trust their bases. The Delta's strength was never in rising, but in holding. And what holds longer than stone? Stoicism's final decree. You are not like a god. You are one, broken into human form. The Delta need not ascend. They only need to realize they're already the ground. Thanks for watching.